Hello, BookTube. I'm here with a tag, a Cull Ya Books Tag. I was tagged by Steve Donoghue, and it was originally done by KD Books. I will leave links in the description for Steve's video and the original, the creator, KD Books. Now, there's how many questions? I'm just checking here. 10 questions in all, or prompts. And let's get to it. Number one, what is the most recent book you have added to your bookshelves, and why did you purchase it? That would be this one here that I've got. There's a few others that are coming that are on similar theme. And this is an anthology of science fiction, but more sort of pointed, because it is the Bradbury Chronicles, edited by William F. Nolan and Martin H. Greenberg. It is stories in honor of Ray Bradbury, and there's a number of authors from classical science fiction and like Isaac Asimov, Richard Matheson, Charles Beaumont, and it even has a Norman Corwin story in here, which is an added plus. Yeah, it's just in honor of Bradbury. And there's a number of reasons why I purchased this. I've been on a bit of a nostalgia, and I think there's several of us that have. I used to read voraciously science fiction when I lived in Canada, but we're talking like 20 plus years ago. And for some reason, I drifted away from it. I used to have a huge collection of anthologies, science fiction, novels, as well as a huge collection of the magazines. But I got rid of them all, and I sort of wish I had those now, because I've gotten back into reading some science fiction. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I finally bit the bullet to buy some print-on-demand books of Clifford Simak that's been put out by the Executor. It's the complete short fiction of Clifford Simak, who is one of my favorite science fiction writers. So I bought the first 4 volumes. That sort of started me back on looking at science fiction, and then along with Steve Donoghue, getting a lot of anthologies. It's when I see him opening up his mail, and he's holding up anthology. Yeah, I had that. Yeah, I know that one. Yeah, I know that. And it just sort of set me on a nostalgic little bit of a trip and a ramble that I did a video. And then subsequently, Jason did one showing some of his collection, his anthologies, and so did Mark Richardson at Richardson Reads. So I decided, yeah, I'm going to try to get a few things. But I'm going to be a little picky, because I don't want to do a shotgun effect on these. They've got to be in good condition. So I've ordered a few, and I've ordered this one. This sort of popped up. I never knew existed. It's by Severn House, published in 1992. And it should be a fun read. I haven't stuck into it yet, because I think I got it yesterday. It came in yesterday's post. But I didn't put it up because it was the only thing that came. But yeah, that's the newest thing, and I think there's a few more coming as well. Number 2, what book did you buy with absolutely no desire to read it? Now, I haven't. Well, I'm going to take it. I'm not sure if it's meant in the spirit of this. It's a book that I've read, but it's an edition that I probably will not read. And I've been going through some of shelf tours, and there was the Dracula, Bram Stoker, so forth, vampire one, and I've got a number of editions of Dracula, and I've got the Penguin Deluxe edition, and I bought that specifically for the artwork on it. I don't have any plans to read that edition. I've got another Penguin edition that I'll probably wind up reading, plus the annotated versions that I've got, and the Critical Norton Critical edition. So that's where I'm going to take it, is that I'll buy an edition based on something like that, an aesthetic, an art, the art on the cover, or a nice hardcover of it, that I don't necessarily plan on reading that edition, but I want to have it on the shelf as part of collection. And I could conceive doing the same like with the first edition. Like I would love to have a first edition of Clifford Simak's City. I don't think I would be thumbing through that, at the cost that I would, the amount that I would pay for it in case I damage it or anything. And it would be just sort of a trophy in some ways to have on the shelf. And I could conceivably doing something else, like buying a first signed edition of a Balzac or a Dumas or Zola or something like that in the original French. And I can't read French, so I would never, I wouldn't read that copy. I would read a translation. But I could conceivably see an interesting collection like that, is having a signed first edition of some foreign editions of authors that I really like. So that works for me in that way. I'm not sure if that was meant in the spirit of the question of whether you buy a book and you just would never read the content, or in any format whatsoever. Number 3. What is the most awkwardest shaped size book you own? I've got one big one. It's an oblong book. It's about 2.5 plus feet on the long side, and a good 1.5 foot roughly at the spine. I do want to show it because I think it'll be. I could do a whole video on it, like flip. It's quite amazing, but I don't have any space. I need some space to lay it out in order to do this. And I will get to it. I will get to it eventually. But that's the most awkward one. I have seen other ones like Steve mentioned. I haven't seen the Tower of Pisa book, but I've seen other ones like Skyscraper, where it tapers off to the antenna, the shape of the book. I've seen the shape of a book in a cigarette pack. I've all sorts of things throughout the years. If you can think of it, or they have thought of it, I've seen it. Number 4, show and tell. How do you arrange your shelves? Is there method to the madness? Yes, I have a method. It doesn't always work out in practice how I would like it, and that's mainly because of space. I have gross categories of things that I like. For instance, film. I've got 2 bookcases of film, and they're probably going to stay at 2 bookcases. I hope, in a way. Well, it depends on what I can find, and occasionally I do add to it. But anyway, silent film is a big section, and it's sort of early film, very early film begins. It's sort of chronologically through. And then, certain highlights that I'm interested in, like Chaplin or Louise Brooks, I would have a number of books of those together, and then just continue on through general silent film, and then into classical film. I end sort of more or less up to 1960s, I suppose. But I will have stuff even later, some favorite films, if there's some good books that were written, and also television show material. There's a little bit of early music in there that I'm interested in, but I no longer have the number of books that I used to have on music, whether it be early music like polyphony or Gregorian chants and so forth, which I used to have. I've got a few books now on. I think I got a Bessie Smith biography that I've picked up, and a few other early sort of jazz material and blues. And then I've got a little radio, history of radio section. Because I have a big interest in old-time radio. So it's quite a bit of reference material there. I got essays. The essays are a little widespread at the moment. And then I've got books about books, which I do want to combine a lot of that with the author highlight essays, as well as the book review essays, and with the books about books, and sort of blending into the collecting aspect as well, because a lot of collecting authors that talk about collecting, they talk about their passions and their authors, so they will do an essay usually on authors that they like. So, and it just goes on. I've got transportation that's and then subdivided. So the idea is a large section, whatever it happens to be, and then broken down into smaller sections. Fiction, and that's for nonfiction. For fiction, I would keep stuff sort of periods, science fiction altogether, like genres, classics, like if we're talking Greek and Roman, I would keep all those together, and then like all the penguins, I would keep all those together, classical literature. Poetry is something else that is, I do need to refine, and it'll be mostly period, so I can go to and find something very easily and quickly. So, in other words, broad section and then broken down into smaller sections, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. That's the ideal. Practice doesn't always work out. Number 5, how often do you have a book call? I don't sort of call books on a regular basis. I am running space-wise now, so the idea is that the books that I read, and I have space on the shelf, they stay there, but when I need space for something else, and there is a book that I go, oh yeah, I read it, yeah, it's not really helpful, that'll go. Or items that like I've upgraded in condition or whatever, paperback to hardcover, that I do know that I want to keep. That's sort of the culling away at the moment, because most of the books that I have here I have not read, and I had tons of books in Canada. Most of my collection I've read. But here, I decided, for whatever reason, I did not rebuy or repurchase every book that I had read. A few things, because I want to reread them. However, I started out small when I first came, and it's really only in the last, 4 years, 3-4 years, that I have exploded, and I have just bought and purchased so many books that I have not been able to keep up with even shelving, let alone reading. So these are sort of, again, in these areas that I'm interested in. And so culling at this point is a little difficult because I haven't read it. So it'd be hard to get rid of it before I've read it and made an assessment on the book. And I always want to have this material sort of there for me to reference while I'm reading something else, and that's with each area, and I think I'll get into that a little bit in a question or two. Number 6, how do you decide if you're going to keep a book or to give it away? It's mainly as I said, if it is if I've read it, then and I need the space, and it doesn't fit exactly, or it doesn't add anything to my collection or thoughts on the subject, and I'd be doubtful that I would go back to it to reference it, and I need the space, it'll go. Simple as that. What's the question again here? I keep it. And so I keep everything else because I haven't read it. Because, as I say, in the last 4 years, approximately, I have added thousands of books. Literally. In a short period of time, I have added thousands of books. So, it's hard to not keep these until I've assessed them. And some of them I will never read from cover to cover. but I will keep them because I know they are reference books when I read something else and go back to them. Let's see here. What is the contender for the oldest unread book on your shelves? And that would be some George Orwell from his complete works. Now, because when I first came to England, I wasn't really planning on buying any books. I thought I'd use the library when I lived in Milton Keynes for the first year that I was here. It was an okay library, so I was able to read a lot of Woodhouse. That was sort of my mainstay there. They had tons of paperbacks of Woodhouse, and some of the that's where I discovered the Everyman Library, Woodhouse, and also Orwell and other subjects. So I was well fed for books, if you would say, if you want to call it that, when I was living in Milton Keynes. When I moved to where I am now, the library didn't have anything. Like literally nothing that I wanted to read. I would go in with 150 titles and they would have nothing on the shelves. I would have to get it either from their storage or from another library, interlibrary loan. That has cost to it, and the cost most of the time was as much or more than a book that I could actually buy, that book. So I decided to start buying books. And the first things were the Everyman P.G. Woodhouse and the George Orwell complete works. And I got them very, very cheap on Amazon, the paperbacks. So I bought them all. So I'm reading through them, but I would think those are the ones. There's about 5 or 6 volumes that I haven't read yet that would be the oldest, which would be approximately 12 years, I would say, sitting on my shelf, 12 to 13 years maximum, since I come to the UK. Let's see here. Number 8. What book have you read and is currently on your shelves that you would struggle to give a summary on what actually happened in it? Go on, give it a go. I don't really have anything particularly fitting for that. The only thing I can think of is there's a bio of Thomas Carlyle that I bought as a remainder, and I was really, really wanted to get it, so I waited, I got it, and then I started reading it. I got halfway through, or a little over halfway. It was good the first part, and then all of a sudden he switches the tone of sort of biography to talk more in detail and sort of esoterically or philosophically about Carlyle's writing. And it just was kind of off-putting because I thought I had an understanding of what Carlyle wrote and the books, and then this in some ways confused me. So I've put it down. I will get back to it at some point, but not anytime soon. So I'm not quite sure what he was doing. Let's see here. Number 9. Some books are to be cherished. Which book would you never throw or give away? That is really difficult. That's like saying, giving up one of your children. I'd find it really, really difficult to give away the P.G. Woodhouse Everyman collection. I've got everyone that they published. And even though I'm not reading him actively at the moment, I have read them and I will read them again. The Orwell would be another difficult one. I would like to upgrade to all hardcovers, but they would be difficult to give away or part with. And there's many, many others. It's hard to make a list. Let me see. Number 10. Don't throw those books away. Out of the ones you've discussed, choose one to actually send to someone close to you, or arrange to send it to another booktuber. Why have you chosen this book for them? Again, it's difficult, but I do have books that I do put aside that I either purchase for a friend who's out of the country now, and a few things have been mine that I know he's going to want, or that I've picked up at the bookshop and sort of just piling them in behind, like double stacked on a shelf until he returns. But yeah, that's there's mostly art and a few other miscellaneous items. I think I've gone through. It seemed like I missed something here. Yeah. No, I think I've got through them all. And then now it's you can call books. You can call books, but you can't call friends. Well, they are friends, the books. So that in some ways is culling friends. But I would like to tag. I would like to tag Jack at the Rambling Raconteur, Bill at the Rutenberg Library, Karen Evans, and James Holder. And I will put links to them at the bottom. So thank you very much, BookTube.